The countdown has officially begun. Raiders rookies are set to report to training camp on July 17th, and the Silver and Black have already made a move to clear the way. Quarterback Carter Bradley has been waived, trimming the QB room down to 3. Veteran Geno Smith, developmental arm Aidan O'Connell, and 6th-round rookie Cam Miller out of North Dakota State. Bradley, the son of former Raiders defensive coordinator Gus Bradley, was largely a practice squad presence last year. His departure opens the door. But for what? That's the big question. Could the Raiders simply be comfortable rolling into camp with 3 arms? Maybe. But more likely, this move hints at something else, something bigger. Like making room for 2nd-round pick Jack Beck, the wide receiver from TCU, who remains unsigned just days before rookies are due to report. NFL training camp rosters are capped at 90 players, though the Raiders currently carry an extra man via the International Pathway Program, who doesn't count against that limit. Still, space is tight. To sign Beck, a roster spot must open. And with time ticking, this could be the front office clearing the runway. Here's the kicker. Beck is one of 30 second-round picks who still hasn't signed. Former NFL agent Joel Corey recently weighed in, saying that while delays like this aren't uncommon, they're certainly frustrating, especially this close to camp. Agents have been holding out, chasing fully guaranteed deals after a few recent signings pushed the bar higher. It's a quiet tug of war between front offices and player reps, and Beck is caught in the middle. If this drags on, it could put a young receiver behind the curve before his first NFL snap. Reps matter. Chemistry matters. And time, especially in the NFL, waits for no one. The 2nd round of the NFL draft has become a high-stakes poker table, and Jack Beck, like many others, is sitting on his hand. Right now, dozens of 2nd-round picks remain unsigned, and it all traces back to one thing: leverage. Tyler Shaw, expected to compete for the Saints' starting job, is holding out for a fully guaranteed deal. If he gets it, others around him, before and after in the draft order, could use that as fuel for their own demands. It's a ripple effect, and agents know the game well. Take David Mulugeta, one of the league's most respected power brokers. He represents Jack Beck. He's also the agent who helped Dak Prescott land one of the richest contracts in NFL history. He's no stranger to patience, strategy, and pressure. He'll wait if it means securing even a few more guaranteed dollars in year 3 of Beck's deal. That's the real battle in these negotiations. How much of that 3rd-year salary gets locked in? Last year, the 26th pick in round 2 only had about 10% of that year guaranteed. That's the line many agents are fighting to push past, and the only way to do it is to wait and watch. Joel Corey, former agent turned analyst, explained it best. Agents don't work on their own timeline, they follow their client's lead. If Beck wanted to get to camp immediately, Corey says the agent would make it happen. But most players trust their reps to do what's best long-term, even if it means showing up closer to the veteran report date of July 22nd rather than rookie day on the 17th. Timing matters. Strategy matters. Every agent is watching the other, looking at when teams report, who's already signed, and how deep their peers are willing to dig in. Some agencies are cautious. Others are aggressive. And somewhere in the middle sits a player like Jack Beck, waiting for the right moment to make it official. And while we wait to see whether he gets to camp on time or joins late, one thing is clear: this Raiders front office is handling business differently than in years past. Strategic, calculated, patient. Oh, and one more thing. Maxx Crosby just dropped a bomb on social media. No, not football-related, music. He's teasing a new EP, set to release before the season starts. A passion project, a side hobby, something to show the world another side of number 98. And while Raider Nation might raise an eyebrow, there's no doubt Maxx has earned the trust. He's always locked in on the grind, and this little creative spark, just more pressure fuel for the monster on Sundays. Try to carve out the history of the Las Vegas Raiders into just 4 names. It feels almost criminal. Over 30 Hall of Famers, countless legends, and more stories than stone can hold. That's the challenge and the beauty of trying to build a Mount Rushmore for one of the NFL's most storied franchises. And here's the twist. No coaches, no owners. Only players. Which means no Al Davis. No John Madden. That alone strips away 2 of the most iconic figures in the history of the silver and black. What's left is a brutal, emotional decision. A razor-thin margin between greatness and omission. The final list? Jim Otto, the original Raider. Tim Brown, the consistent, electrifying force of his era. Kenny the Snake Stabler, the heart and soul of the 1970s. And Marcus Allen, the smooth, clutch superstar who defined excellence under pressure. But even as the list went public, Raider Nation rose up with one voice. Where's the defense? And they had a point. Not a single defender made the cut. That realization hit hard, especially when names like Charles Woodson, Ted Hendricks, Howie Long, and Willie Brown hover in the shadows, all giants of the game, all worthy of the mountain. You could build an entire defensive Mount Rushmore from the Raiders alone, and still have legends left off. Lester Hayes, Greg Townsend, Mike Haynes, all forces of nature, all men who left scars on Sunday. The truth is, narrowing this down to 4 players might be the toughest task in the NFL. Few franchises have such deep, rich history. The Raiders aren't just a team, they're a legacy. And choosing 4 faces to represent it. That's not a list. That's a war between eras, memories, and emotion. But that's what makes this fanbase special. Passion, perspective, debate, and a fierce love for every player who wore the silver and black with pride. There's no way around it. Building a Mount Rushmore for the Raiders hurts. You start with 4 legends. Jim Otto, Tim Brown, Kenny Stabler, Marcus Allen. That feels right. That feels sacred. But once the question is asked, where's the defense? Everything gets harder. Who do you remove? Howie Long, Willie Brown, Ted Hendricks, Charles Woodson. These aren't just defensive players, they're titans. Every one of them changed games, defined eras, inspired generations. Charles Woodson was left off the list, and it still stings. The only reason. His peak came in Green Bay, where he won a Super Bowl and earned Defensive Player of the Year. But to Raiders fans, he's more than just stats. He's a symbol. He left and came back. He bled silver and black. Leaving him off the mountain doesn't feel right. Not for a second. Then there's Howie Long, dominant, loyal, unforgettable. A Hall of Famer who helped define the franchise through its roughest and greatest years. If you want a defensive cornerstone, he checks every box. Willie Brown. He was the number 24 long before Woodson. His pick 6 in the Super Bowl is etched in history. Hendricks. A towering presence, literally and figuratively, who haunted opposing quarterbacks. Raiders edge rusher Maxx Crosby even laughs about how often he's compared to him. And let's be honest, it's not a bad comparison to live up to. Greg Townsend, Lester Hayes. They're not even in the Hall of Fame, and yet they'd still be legitimate picks. That's how deep the Raiders' legacy runs. It's a puzzle with no perfect answer. Take off the snake? Too painful. Remove Otto? It would feel like erasing the soul of the franchise. Replacing anyone feels wrong, yet leaving off defenders feels just as wrong. The only true conclusion is this. 4 faces are never enough to define the greatness of the Raiders. Some have suggested breaking it up, an offensive Mount Rushmore, a defensive one, maybe even a special teams version. And why not? With legends like Ray Guy, even punters deserve consideration in the silver and black universe. This franchise has been that rich with talent. So when someone tweets, "Good list, but you failed by not putting a defender on it," it's hard to argue. Not because it's wrong, but because it's true. The Raiders' greatness isn't confined to just 4 names. It never was. It never will be. And now the conversation shifts to the people who matter most, Raider Nation. Calls and texts are rolling in, and the debate has just begun. Mount Rushmore fever is burning across the desert, and it's only heating up as training camp draws near. Raider Nation never stays quiet for long, not when it comes to legacy. PT from Danville kicked off the conversation, and he hit on something powerful. It wasn't just about Brock Bowers' stats, it was about meaning, about impact. He doesn't need to see another 1,000-yard season. What he wants: touchdowns, wins, balance. A Raiders offense that doesn't just play from behind, but plays with purpose, feeding Zamir White, Jakobi Meyers, Trey Tucker, and still letting Bowers do damage when it matters most. That's how you win in the NFL, and PT knows it. And then came the Mount Rushmore. PT's list was heartfelt. Jim Otto, Charles Woodson, Tim Brown, and Derek Carr. Yes, Derek Carr. And whether you agree or not, you have to respect the honesty. For PT, Carr symbolized stability, 9 years of holding down the most cursed position in Raiders history. Sure, he didn't win a playoff game. He didn't take the team to a Super Bowl, but he gave Raider Nation a sliver of consistency when chaos reigned. Still, Mount Rushmore. That's a heavy crown to wear. Carr leads the franchise in passing yards, but when you line him up next to names like Stabler, Plunkett, or Gannon, MVPs and Super Bowl quarterbacks, it gets harder to justify. Numbers matter, but moments matter more. And for most of Raider Nation, it's hard to put Carr above men who delivered on the biggest stages. Even so, it's your list, PT. And that's what makes this debate special. Then came Ant Dog from ATL. His list echoed some familiar names: Stabler, Marcus Allen, Tim Brown. But he added a wild card, Lyle Alzado. Not because of stats, not because of awards, but because of impact. The way Alzado played, the way he fought, the way he embodied the soul of the silver and black, it was unmatched. It reminded Ant Dog what it meant to be a Raider: toughness, defiance, and pride. He even brought up Matt Millen, punching a Patriots exec to defend Howie Long. That's the kind of raw, unfiltered loyalty this fan base lives for. And finally, Stabler's ghost, calling from the Northeast, brought a veteran's perspective. He respected the list, but had 2 switches in mind. First, Fred Biletnikoff over Tim Brown. Why? Because Fred caught passes in Super Bowls. He won big games. He showed up when it mattered most. And second, Jim Plunkett over Kenny Stabler. A lot of fans forget. Plunkett has 2 Super Bowl rings. He saved a franchise that was floundering. And for Stabler's ghost, that earns him a spot on the mountain. The truth is, no list will ever be perfect. The Raiders are too legendary. From Super Bowl champions to Hall of Fame snubs, from wrecking ball defenders to graceful wideouts, there are simply too many names and not enough stone. But that's the beauty of the silver and black. Every fan sees greatness through their own lens. Every era has its warriors. Every list tells a story. And as long as Raider Nation keeps talking, the legacy lives on. The Mount Rushmore debate kept rolling, and the passion only got stronger. Stabler's ghost came back in, and this time he was ready to make a change. He'd take Kenny the Snake Stabler off and swap in Jim Plunkett. 2 rings. A resurrection story. A true Raider. And honestly, it's hard to argue. Plunkett was never flashy, never loud, just tough, resilient, and a winner when it counted most. But as always, the names kept piling up. Howie Long, Ted Hendricks, Lester Hayes, Willie Brown. It never stops. That's what happens when you're talking about one of the most iconic franchises in sports. And the fans. Raider Nation never disappoints. Vudrick 66 sent in a reminder that hit home. Gene Upshaw. The living, breathing essence of the Raiders, he said, and he wasn't wrong. Jim Otto gets the spotlight, but Gene Upshaw embodied what it meant to wear silver and black. A cornerstone. A captain. A Raider to his core. Then came Jakob from Wilmington, North Carolina, and he brought rules. He wasn't just building a Mount Rushmore. He was setting a standard. You must have won a Super Bowl to qualify. And with that filter, he rolled out his list. Defense. Matt Millen, a linebacker who hit like a truck and defined Raider toughness. Special teams. Ray Guy, the only punter ever drafted in the first round, and the first to enter the Hall. Offense. Jim Otto, the ultimate Og Raider. Coach. Tom Flores, two-time Super Bowl winner, trailblazer, legend, quarterback. Jim Plunkett, comeback king, 2 rings, and still fighting for Hall of Fame justice. It was bold. It was honest. And it was 5 names, not 4. So yeah, technically not a Mount Rushmore. But Jakob just proved the point again. 4 spots aren't enough for this franchise. Not when you've got over 30 Hall of Famers. Not when you've got so much silver and black history to honor. And that rule. No coaches. No owners. No front office legends. Tell that to Al Davis. Tell that to John Madden. Tell that to Tom Flores. This is Raider history, not a popularity contest. And that's what makes this so hard. We closed with a quick text from Clarkridder46, a long-time listener, first-time texter, and the TSA agent who gave a shout-out at the Vegas airport. His list was tight and to the point. Cliff Branch, Fred Biletnikoff, Howie Long, Tim Brown. Another deadly list. Another reminder of how deep the talent pool runs in this franchise. And that's the truth. There's no wrong list, just impossible choices. Whether you grew up watching the Mad Stork, or Charles Woodson, or Derek Carr, this is your team, your era, your heart. Mount Rushmore might only have 4 faces, but Raider Nation, we've got an army of legends. Clark Raiders text closed with a name that struck a chord. Todd Christensen. And man, what a player he was. A tight end who ran routes like a wide receiver, blocked like a tackle, and played with the fire of a linebacker. Another name. Another great, another reminder this list will never feel complete. But then came Eric the Rockin' Raider, and he brought the soul. His first Super Bowl memory. The Raiders versus the Vikings. The moment he saw Kenny, the Snake, Stabler take the field, and just like that, he was hooked. So hooked, in fact, he named his dog after him. A silver and black cocker spaniel named Kenny. Now that's Raider love. Eric made his Mount Rushmore simple and strong. Kenny Stabler, swagger, heart, and a cannon for a left arm. Marcus Allen, the GOAT. A game changer. A champion. Tim Brown, the most consistent, loyal Raider of his era. Howie Long, because defense matters, and he wrecked games like no one else. And yeah, Eric pushed back, respectfully, passionately. He said what a lot of Raider Nation was thinking. Q, no defensive players. That's gotta change. And honestly, he's right. I tried to fit in Howie Long, I wanted to. But man, who do you take off? Jim Otto is Mr. Raider. Kenny Stabler is the soul of the silver and black. Tim Brown was the face of the franchise for 2 decades. And Marcus Allen? A Super Bowl MVP, Hall of Famer, and pure greatness. There's no easy answer. That's the pain of this list. Because once you start pulling guys off, you're not just swapping names, you're messing with legacy. You're trying to rewrite history that's already carved in silver and black stone. But maybe that's the beauty of it. Every fan's Mount Rushmore tells their story. The era they grew up with. The players who made them fall in love with the game. The names they'll argue for at the bar. The tailgate, the family dinner. And that's why we do this. To argue. To remember. To honor the greatness. So as rookie camp creeps closer, and we wait to see if guys like Jack Beck get their deals signed, let's not forget. This debate isn't about who we left off. It's about what they gave us. Passion, power, pride. This is Raider Nation. We don't just pick favorites, we live them. So until next time, take care of yourselves. Take care of your family. Love your people. And as always, just win, baby.